guys, welcome back to Medical Coding with Blue. Today's episode is all about study tips for ICD-10-PCS. If you're brand new to my channel, welcome. I am Blue, I'm a medical coder. Okay guys, so you know all of my episodes are inspired by you, all the viewers. So I got this comment, we're going to read the comment and then we're going to get into it. So here we go, and thank you to the viewer who made the comment. So the comment says, "Hi Blue, I am a current coder, 7 years of experience, and I have started reading the guidelines weekly like you recommended. I currently have my RHIT, Registered Health Information Technician, and will be sitting for my CCS in April. I could push it out to June. I just don't have a strong grasp of ICD-10-PCS. I am an outpatient coder. Do you think 12 weeks is enough time to focus on and master inpatient coding and preparing for the 2023 exam? I have the AHIMA workbook and the Optum ICD-10-PCS book you recommended with the appendix that you recommended in the previous video." Okay, so here's the thing. 12 weeks is not enough time, especially if the person is saying that they do not have a strong grasp of ICD-10-PCS. ICD-10-PCS is completely different, and I understand the hesitancy of studying this because I went through this myself. In 2021, when I studied for the CCS exam, this was the one part of that test that I knew that was going to be my personal challenge, because I, being an outpatient medical coder myself, with double the time, this person has 7 years in the outpatient setting, and at that time I had 13 years in the field, and I still felt unsure because of the PCS part. Now, I did have some training beforehand on PCS, but it never really makes sense until you start really working with it. So for me, I would say no, that 12 weeks is not a sufficient enough time to learn ICD-10-PCS, or at least feel confident with it. When I took the CCSP in 2021, I took it in the end of March. And then after I took it, I decided that I wanted to go for the Mastery Medical Coding Certification. Having the channel on YouTube and doing all of my own personal things in the background was my motivation for, okay, I've got to do this now. Because I had the CCA for many years, and that got superseded as soon as I got the CCSP. So I knew I had to come up with a plan to make myself successful for the CCS exam that I knew I was going to take in the fall, early winter, but I just needed to get to a point where I felt confident enough as well. You know, when I took the original CCA in 2008, of course, we were in ICD 9 times. So all of that was completely different from now, which was ICD-10-CM and of course ICD-10-PCS. And so it was like just something completely different for me. And so while I had my confidence of having strong, outpatient skills, having those inpatient skills, it takes time. And like I said, 12 weeks is not sufficient enough, because from April all the way till the beginning of October, I studied PCS. And I did that using the Nellie book. The book by Nellie Leon Chizen is the ICD-10-CM and ICD-10-PCS Coding Handbook with the answers. And I also coded the 388 procedures that are in the ICD-10-PCS book from Optum in Appendix M. It has the answers and the rationale as well on some of them. So coding through all of those and working through the Nellie book was the thing that I believe gave me the confidence to say, okay, I can do this. And sure enough, I did, And so I took my CCS in November of that year and I passed it. So that's the thing, that you have to be able to kind of gauge your own amount of skill that you're going into with PCS. But for me to recommend somebody study for 12 weeks and yeah, you're good to go, no. You need a little bit more time than that. Pushing it out to June would be a better option, I think, because that'll give you just a little bit more time. Obviously, it will be in a new, it will be in the 2024 editions, so you'll have to get new books if you don't already have the 2024 editions, because it will be in the 2024 set at that time. Hopefully you won't be in the beta period anymore, because the CCS will be in a beta period beginning in May. And it depends on how many people are taking the test and how fast they process those that will get people out of the beta period. But, you know, beta period can last a month, 2 months, 3 months. You know, a lot of people were saying that the RHIA that had just gone through a beta period was going to be in it for a while, and they were in and out of it really quick. So everybody was able to get their instant scoring later on and a lot sooner than people thought that they would. But my recommendation for this situation is to make a plan, push the exam out to June if you can, and make sure that you are consistently studying 20 hours per week. Practice with the Appendix M for those PCS procedures, because the better you can understand the procedures and knowing how to find them, because it's not just one part of a code or just one part, you know, of the scenario, whatever. The whole code has to be correct. And so each character has got to be in the right place, and it's got to be, you know, the right approach. And so there's a lot to it. That's why I say the more time you can give yourself, the better. And sticking to a consistent schedule of studying for 20 hours per week will help you get there. You know, that's a lot better than trying to rush yourself and be done in 12 weeks, because 12 weeks is just not enough time when it comes to PCS. PCS is not like CPT, okay? CPT, those codes are already done. The only thing you got to really worry about is modifiers, you know? But with ICD-10-PCS, it's the whole code. You get part of that code wrong, the whole code is wrong, okay? There's no partial credit for anything. It's all or nothing. So that's why I say the more that you can practice with the Nelly book, and practice with the ICD-10-PCS code book from Optum will be your best bet. The other thing that I would recommend is working on your speed. You know, the more familiar you are with those books, with any of your books, the better off you'll be. Because remember, it's not just studying the PCS portion of your studies. It's going to be also incorporating some diagnosis coding, and of course CPT as well, because the CCS covers ICD-10-CM, CPT, and ICD-10-PCS. So having a little bit of practice on everything else will also help supplement your studies. You don't want to just concentrate only on coding for ICD-10-PCS. Also get yourself practice with CPT and ICD-10-CM. I have done the video on how to study for the CCS exam, and I'll probably link it if I can remember in the description of this video. So that way, you know, if you want to check out that video as well, because there's obviously new domains. The exam, the CCS exam, is going to have another domain in it, and the percentage of the coding is going to go down a little bit, but it's still the majority of the test. So coding knowledge and skill is still over 39% of that exam. So 39 to 40 something percent of that exam is going to be your coding knowledge and skill. So I'm not looking at the description right now, but that's from what I can remember. So that is something that you should know. And again, a lot of it is going to be a mix. You know, it really all depends on, you know, the test that they give you. Everybody's test is going to be different. So again, working on your speed and not really concentrating on, depending on the exam prep books. A lot of people want to put emphasis on, you know, use a CCS exam prep book. I don't personally like the CCS exam prep book from Mahima. Too many people, I've seen them, you know, really kind of depend on that. That's why I tell y'all to really kind of concentrate on the workbooks rather, because again, those questions are not on the test that are in the exam prep guides. So it's just better if you work through the workbooks and you practice looking up the codes. And if the answers are there, you obviously can go through process of elimination and do that. But I also recommend just covering up those answers and trying working out the problem yourself and looking up those codes. That way you can know if you're really on track, because the more proficient you are with looking up codes without having to depend on multiple choice, the better off you'll be, because when you do have multiple choice, then you're gonna be like, okay, yeah, now here I see it. And so you'll be able to work much more quickly and you'll build your confidence that way. There's not a whole lot of talk about building confidence when it comes to taking these exams, but you do have to have some level of confidence, obviously, walking in, because that's going to really help you mentally to be able to get through your test. And when you're getting through your test, you have to believe in yourself. And how do you do that? By having gone through these books and practicing. I know that's like kind of like, okay, is that it? just practice? Pretty much. I mean, there's not a whole lot else you can do other than to practice for 30 minutes minimum, 1 hour maximum. I recommend strongly not going over 1 hour maximum, because in 2021, when I was practicing, I was also doing live shows on YouTube. So I would do live shows every night, because I was like, okay, I don't have time to film, so I'll just do a live show. And so I was doing a lot of those. And when I was doing those, I would get done with the show, and then I would go take a shower, and then I would go into my study mode. And so I was studying all the way up till I went to bed. And so whenever I would study, I would notice if I went over an hour, I started to really not be able to find the codes. And then I would get frustrated because I was like, why was I doing good? And then all of a sudden I can't find the codes. Well, that is because when I was going over an hour, my brain needed a break and I wasn't listening to myself. So that was the result. And so once I learned that, then I was like, okay, 30 minutes minimum, 1 hour maximum. And that turned out to be the magic trick. And that was what really helped me to keep on and keep motivated with studying for ICD-10-PCS. Now, you can also find other resources on looking up codes for PCS as far as like practices and stuff, not just the Nelly book, not just the ICD-10-PCS book by Optum, which is very helpful. Okay, that's going to lay a strong foundation. But you can also go to justcoding.com. Justcoding.com, this is not an ad for them, but they do have a free membership and a paid membership. And in the free membership, they do have free 5-question coding quizzes that cover ICD-10-CM, ICD-10-PCS, and CPT. And so you can, and they're multiple choice, but you can always cover up the answers and just look up the codes. So that way you can get that practice in, and then, look and see what ones that are there once you found the code. And then that way, that will do two things. It'll help you with your speed, and it will also help you with your confidence, because if the answer is there and obviously you got it right, then you're on the right track. And if you didn't, then you can really kind of evaluate, what's going on and things like that. So that's just something that's an option out there. I think it's a great resource because it's free. It's a free resource for coders. And I've had people complain, well, those questions were easy because they're multiple choice. Well, no one told you to look at the multiple choice part, right? All you have to do is cover that up, put a little piece of paper there so you can't see it, and then look up the code, and then just take your time going through that way. It's just a free option for you. And I think that when you have a grateful heart and a grateful spirit, I think that that's going to take you a lot further than being ungrateful, right? So I'm just saying, but yes, use that to kind of help you also to practice. And it's a one-stop shop, okay? Diagnosis coding, CPT, and ICD-10-PCS. I mean, what better thing is that, But with that said, PCS, Once you start getting familiar with the tables, I think it is also a lot easier. And once you understand the approaches, that's also going to help you as well. They say that you can get so good with PCS that you can actually just flip to the table, that you don't even have to go through the index. But that is a special skill, and it takes a little bit extra effort to be able to do that. And it takes practice. And I also recommend this key thing, which is literally going through the tabular section. It's great to go through the index as well, so you can kind of look at the terms, and sometimes seeing the terms will kind of help you to like, okay, I know there's an entry for that. I know there's an entry for that, because your brain does go through a bit of a deja vu when you've done that. That's why looking at these things is so important. And you could take a Saturday or Sunday and just look at the book itself to just kind of flip through it. But I do recommend breaking that up into 2 sessions, at least 2 different sessions. The looking of the index, right? And then reviewing the tabular section. And once you get to understanding, what these different approaches mean, and, kind of understanding where everything is at in the book, again, it's going to make you so much more proficient, and you can walk in there with a lot of confidence, and you can be able to be sure of yourself, and it's not going to be so scary. I think the thing that worries people and scares people about tests is the unknown, right? But look at it this way. When it comes to ICD-10-PCS or ICD-10-CM or CPT, you are going in with knowledge. You're not going in not knowing what it is at all. You know what I mean? You have the book there with you. You'll be able to use that book and reference that book as you're doing your test. So you don't have to memorize everything because it's all there. You just have to know where to find things in the book. And that's the key takeaway, is knowing where to find things in the book. A lot of people that talk about not doing well or they're a nervous test taker is because they're either doing too much or not enough. You have to meet that middle ground, okay? That middle ground is met by the 20 hours per week, studying for a minimum of 30 minutes to 1 hour maximum at a time, working through all of the exercises in the ICD-10 PCS manual, and being able to confidently go through, not having your book all marked up or tabbed up or any of those things, because again, it's unnecessary. My book stayed clean the entire time that I was studying. They stayed clean the entire time I was testing, okay? Because it's just not necessary to tab, write, or highlight. You won't have time. The only thing that you'll have time for is to get through that book as quickly as possible so you can find your answers. That's the only way you're going to be able to be successful with these exams, is to really know the book. Okay, so take the time to get acquainted with the ICD-10-PCS manual. That is the best way to prepare yourself. Also, working through those 388 procedures in the back of that book, in the M section, the appendix M, and I emphasize that because that's what helped me. When I tried to look at the definitions and try to memorize those things to kind of like jog my memory, it didn't make sense. And it wasn't until I actually started to practice the coding that's what helped me. And that was what was the key to, I think, the biggest part of my success with that exam, was doing that. Working through the Nelly book obviously is one of the better things that you can do for yourself, because that Nelly book covers everything, and it's got a lot of case scenarios in the back of it, as well as like it's got ER scenarios in there, it's got inpatient scenarios in there, a lot of diagnosis and ICD-10-PCS procedure coding in there, So that's the most wonderful thing about that book. I love that Nelly book, and that is a fantastic book to begin with, and so, but it's very helpful. And again, so many scenarios to go through. Once you go through all of those, that's going to be a good indicator of your readiness as well, because that means that you've been able to go through all of those things. You've touched on every single chapter. You've touched on every single scenario you could possibly go through in those books. And that will be a gauge of readiness because you'll have been through everything. And what do they have to throw at you now when it comes to that test? So if you do that, you're halfway there. And also, I know we're talking about PCS, but you also don't want to neglect reviewing the CMS website for their frequently asked questions. You know, there's going to be a lot of other topics covered on there. Of course, HIPAA, you know, you want to make sure that you know those things. Anything about the HEMA ethical standards, the standards of ethical coding, they talk about that on the on what is it, the domains. They talk about that. So reviewing the AHEMA website will also help you. There's free articles on the AHEMA website. A lot of these you can Google too. And so that way, you know, those articles can come up. Some of these articles are only accessible if you are a member. And, you know, I mean, it's always a good deal, I think. Especially if you are with AHEMA and you're taking an AHEMA certification. It's a good thing to do that because taking the test without it, you're paying just as much as you would pay if you had paid for a membership, right? And so there's a few more perks to being a member, you know, versus not being a member. I'm not suggesting either way, but I'm just saying that that's just an option for you and some more resources that you could find, you know, to help you study. So that is another thing that I would recommend. You can also go to Quizlet. Now, keep in mind, Quizlet has a lot of questions. There's a lot of question banks in there and flashcard decks and stuff like that. Keep in mind, people make these up. And so sometimes these answers can be wrong. You need to make sure that the answers that you're looking at are actually correct. And so that may help you. And that may help you to study for, you know, the HIPAA portion or any of those other ones, the reimbursement portion, any of those things. You know, a lot of those decks can help you on Quizlet. You know, that's just another reference out there for you. So practice, practice, practice. You can never go wrong with practicing for PCS, but that is my strongest and most straightforward suggestion to help you to master that. Don't try to rush through this part because you're going to still feel uncertain. This person in particular has a lot of background already, being that they have their RHIT, but having 7 years of experience in the outpatient side, you kind of get tunnel vision, right? But, you know, concentrating on that PCS side is going to really help you. And working through the Nelly book and the Optum book is going to be your best bet. So that's just my advice anyway. Best of luck to you out there if you're taking the CCA or the CCS exam. Those exams are very tough, and the inpatient portion of those, of course, is just as tough. So, you know, study, practice, practice, practice. And that's my show for today. If this video helped you, please like, subscribe, and share, and I'll see y'all next time. Bye.